My childhood friend, the neighbor I grew up with, is being cornered by a new girl who just transferred into the art department. She asked him, "What's your relationship with Zoe?" Theodore responded coldly, "Just neighbors." The girl laughed softly. Leaning in to kiss him, he responded by wrapping his arms around her waist, returning the kiss passionately. Later, when a male friend offered to walk me home, we encountered Theodore, who was waiting with a questioning look. The friend asked me, "What's your relationship with him?" I replied, "Just neighbors." Chapter 1. During the break, a rush of students hurried out of the classroom. Moments later, my deskmate returned, slightly out of breath, casually placing a bottle of milk on my desk. "Your Theodore asked me to give this to you." Catching her breath, she added, "Zoe, aren't you curious? There's a new girl in Theodore's class, and she's stunning. Such fair skin and long legs. I heard she's an art student transferring to our science class for extra academic courses." Sipping the milk, I replied, "No time. I haven't finished my work yet." She teased, "Those who are closer to the source benefit first. You're not afraid Theodore might develop feelings for someone else?" Then, as if reconsidering, she added, "But knowing Theodore, the top student who's always so indifferent to everything around him, I doubt he'd ever get interested in someone else." I gave a dismissive smile. Everyone knew Theodore and I were childhood friends. Our families were close friends, and we'd been linked together even before we were born. Growing up, we were always seen as the perfect pair in everyone's eyes. He never denied it, and I never explained it. Theodore was naturally aloof and always kept a distance from other girls, except me. He had turned down countless girls, from beautiful and academically gifted ones to those with prestigious family backgrounds. That's why I wasn't worried about the pretty new art student catching his attention. After school that evening, I saw the new art student. I slung my bag over my shoulder, ready to leave with Theodore, who was waiting by the door. A waft of rose-scented perfume drifted by, and a girl with long hair blocked his way. She had a radiant face and a charming smile. "Theodore, everyone's throwing a welcome party for me tonight. Why don't you join us?" Theodore took a step back, saying, "Sorry, I don't have time," and walked around her. After a few steps, he looked back at me. "Zoe, let's go." "Oh," I said, glancing back at the art student, not missing the look she gave me, a mix of curiosity and faint intrigue. On the way home, we discussed a difficult problem, leaving the brief encounter behind us. When we reached my house, Theodore suddenly stopped me. "Zoe, let's aim for South University together." The soft glow of the streetlight cast a warm hue on his cool, handsome face, and his tone softened. Feeling a flutter inside, I smiled and replied, "All right." Chapter 2. Every day without fail. Theodore buys me a bottle of milk. One day, as my deskmate and I were returning from the restroom and passing by his class, he called out to me, handing me the milk through the window. I looked up and saw a girl sitting backward on his desk, leaning toward him. Theodore frowned. "Susanna, go back to your own seat." "Oh, come on. What's the harm in sitting here for a bit?" she murmured, turning her face and briefly locking eyes with me. Her smile grew wider, but she only glanced at me briefly, as if intentionally ignoring my presence, then turned back to gaze at Theodore. With a playful curiosity, she asked him, "You always buy this brand of milk. Is it good? Bring me a bottle tomorrow. Will you?" "Buy it yourself." Susanna made a face. "And you call yourself the class president? Not very caring of your classmates." After that, I kept seeing Susanna. However, after pursuing Theodore for a while, she eventually gave up on her own. Our lives returned to their usual calm. One day, Theodore and I were discussing a tricky problem through the window, completely absorbed, when his gaze suddenly shifted past me, his previously calm eyes flickering with emotion. I didn't turn around but heard a clear, bell-like laugh. Susanna was talking with a boy about something funny from the cafeteria. Laughing loudly, "Susanna." Theodore's voice broke through, his tone barely concealing his irritation. "HM? Class president?" Susanna looked up in surprise, her expression a mix of surprise and calmness. "Did you need something?" I watched Theodore quietly, He seemed to have forgotten my presence as he fixed his gaze firmly on the person behind me. The paper in his hand crinkled, and the veins on his hand became visible. "There's a math group project, and you're the only one who hasn't signed up," he said, barely containing his frustration. Susanna seemed to understand. Before she could respond, the boy beside her chimed in. "Oh, sorry, class president. Susanna told me this morning she'd be in my group." "I forgot to tell you," Susanna playfully scolded him. "I thought you'd already told him." "Oops. Forgot. Haha." They laughed as they walked away. Theodore remained standing, unmoving, with an unreadable look in his eyes behind his glasses. In that moment, it felt like something was slipping from my grasp. One day, after gym class, I returned to the classroom drenched in sweat, just in time to see Susanna in the hallway with her friends. She was leaning against the railing, holding a bottle of milk with a carefree smile. Turning her head, she glanced at me briefly, then turned back and handed the milk to her friend. "Theodore gave this to me." "I don't want it." "You can have it," her friend teased. "Ooh, has he been bringing you milk every day?" "Is this?" "Oh, don't say that. He's such a bother." I kept walking, expressionless, back to the classroom. On my desk was the bottle of milk he'd missed giving me that morning. It was still my favorite brand. I opened it, took a sip, then frowned and threw it away. My deskmate asked curiously, "Why'd you throw it away without finishing it?" It went bad. That evening, I left without waiting for Theodore, going home early out of spite. He didn't come looking for me, either. The next morning, we met in the elevator. Theodore asked me, "Was there a lot of homework last night? Why'd you leave early?" I watched the numbers on the elevator panel drop. "Yeah." After a few seconds of silence, I added, "I've been breaking out lately. Too much heat in my system. Don't buy me milk anymore." Theodore didn't say anything. I had a feeling he was staring at me. It wasn't until the elevator doors opened that I heard his cool reply. "All right." Chapter 3. Theodore and I were now in a cold war. Even my deskmate noticed, asking, "No way. Has the golden couple broken up?" I tapped her forehead with my pen. "Focus on your studies. Finals are coming up." She clutched her head dramatically. "Zoe, I heard that for the New Year's Eve celebration, your Theodore is going to perform with Susanna. Aren't you upset?" "Upset?" Of course. There was some pain, but I somehow believed that the bond between us couldn't be so easily shaken. Just wait a few more days, I told myself. On New Year's Eve, the school was buzzing with excitement. When it was finally time for Theodore's class to perform, the crowd erupted with cheers and whistles. "Theodore! Susanna! Theodore! Susanna!" The names echoed rhythmically. The spotlight hit the stage, illuminating a pair seated at the piano. Theodore was in a black suit, and Susanna in a white dress. Dazzling and beautiful, they looked like characters straight out of a fairy tale. "Shoo!" Susanna leaned into the microphone with a playful smile. "Our performance is about to begin." The crowd quieted down. Melodious notes flowed from their graceful fingers as they played together, their gazes meeting in harmony. Anyone who saw them couldn't deny how well-matched they looked. In just a couple of weeks apart, I found myself barely recognizing Theodore on stage. His gentle expression, his soft smile, all unfamiliar versions of him. My heart skipped a beat. A dark wave of loss washed over me, nearly suffocating. It felt like I'd been pushed out of their world, my hands trembling as I tried to check my phone. I barely heard my deskmate whispering beside me. I just kept murmuring, "It's fine," but the more I forced calm, the more tears fell onto my phone screen. In the midst of cheers and applause for their performance, I slipped out quietly. Chapter 4. By the lake near the school library. 9 o'clock. No one showed up. 10 o'clock. Still no one. 11 o'clock. There was still no sign of anyone. On my phone, someone had posted a picture to our class group. The stage photo captured Theodore and Susanna playing piano together, smiling at each other under the spotlight. I wiped away the tears on my screen, but they kept coming back. The bitter cold of the winter night seeped through my skin, making me shiver. At 11:30, I finally heard a sound behind me. I jumped up, and a flashlight shone on my face. accompanied by a startled, clear voice, "What the hell?" The light flashed on my face, and I raised my hand to block the glare. "Hey, are you a person or a ghost?" The guy stood a few steps away, his voice cracking slightly. "I'm a person." I realized my voice was hoarse. "You gave me a scare. I thought the school was haunted. With a ghost wailing here." His tone was lighthearted. For some reason, I choked up. "I'm not a ghost." He panicked, his flashlight shaking. Wait, don't cry. It's my fault. I shouldn't have called you a ghost. I'm sorry. You're an angel. I'm the ghost." His attempt to comfort me only made me cry harder. He squatted a meter away, scratching his head and nudging something toward me with a twig. "Here. I just bought a small cake. Take it as an apology gift. Please don't cry." I sniffled. In the dim light, he stood up. He was tall, and I couldn't make out his face. The wind carried a faint scent from him and a sigh. "It's late. It's not safe for a girl to be out here alone. Go home." Then he vanished. I checked my phone again, only messages from my parents and desk mate. After replying to them, I took a deep breath and stared at the lake's shadowy surface. A few seconds later, I picked up the small cake the stranger had left. It was blue, with a blonde mermaid on top. At the entrance of my apartment complex, I sensed something and glanced back, seeing a long shadow retreat quickly around a corner. The surroundings were still and eerie, with a stray cat meowing softly nearby. After waiting a while and not seeing the figure I'd hoped for, I chuckled to myself, feeling the sting on my chapped lips. The clock on my phone turned to 11:59. When I opened my door, my parents greeted me with a cake in their hands. "Happy birthday, Zoe!" Chapter 5. The next morning, I woke up feeling dizzy and heavy-headed. The alarm rang multiple times, but each time, I struggled and failed to get up. In a daze, I heard my mom gasp, "Zoe, your head is burning up." And then I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I was in the hospital. Mom was by my side, visibly relieved when she saw me open my eyes. I noticed a small gift box on the table beside me. Mom said, "When I came to the hospital this morning, I ran into Theodore downstairs. He said this is an extra birthday gift for you." "Oh, aren't you going to open it?" "I don't feel like it." Maybe because I was sick. I clung to my mom, not wanting to move. After an 4.5 days rest, I returned to school in the afternoon. I had missed the morning's language exam due to the monthly exams. The seating arrangement was based on our previous exam scores, so Theodore and I were both in the first exam hall, the Science Class 1 classroom. He was seat 1, and I was seat 2. As soon as I sat down, Theodore turned around, his tone uncharacteristically concerned. "Are you feeling better?" I didn't look up, busy setting out my stationery. "Yeah." He was silent for a few seconds. "What's wrong? Why didn't you come last night?" "What?" The bell rang, and I met his cool gaze, pausing before saying, "Let's not talk about it now. The invigilator is here." He stayed calm and didn't press further. That's Theodore, calm and composed. Even when I argued with my parents, he always remained rational. I'd always thought nothing could stir his emotions. If I hadn't seen him on stage last night, I'd still believe that. When the exam ended, I packed up and left without looking back. "Zoe." I ignored Theodore's voice behind me, distracted. I walked straight into a guy coming in through the classroom door. Ouch. The voice sounded familiar. I looked up, meeting a pair of clear, bright eyes. They were a striking amber color, and I found myself staring a bit longer. The guy was tall, and noticing my gaze, he stepped aside politely to avoid any misunderstanding. I quickly looked down. "Sorry." "No problem." His voice was bright and unbothered, with a hint of casual laziness. "Tom, you're walking so fast. Are you in a hurry to reincarnate?" Another boy caught up, throwing a playful punch at him. Tom kicked back. Tom, the guy whose scores in science subjects were near perfect, but who barely passed the humanities. The language teacher always sighed at him, saying he had so much potential. Remembering this, I glanced at him again. Tom walked into the classroom, laughing with his friend, his dimples barely visible. The The setting sun dyed his ears a soft red. Sensing my gaze, Tom turned, our eyes meeting briefly before he blinked in surprise and quickly looked away. Chapter 6. Returning to the classroom. I found an apple on my desk, likely left by the student who'd used my seat during the exam. I tucked the apple back into the desk and left a sticky note to remind them. Hey, don't forget your apple. After the evening exam, Theodore got up before me. Zoe, we need to talk. He wasn't oblivious. My one-sided Cold War was too obvious for him not to notice. Okay. Stepping out of class 1, I ran into Tom again. He was tossing an apple in his hand, laughing and chatting with his friend. His friend nudged him playfully. I saw a note on your apple. Come on, tell me, who gave it to you? Tom made a dismissive sound, but his expression was a mix of pride and embarrassment. I bought it myself. Do you think I'd just take random things from people? His friend chuckled, still trying to grab the note from his pocket. Sure, let's see the note. Tom dodged and somehow ended up right in front of me. Theodore raised his arm to block, keeping Tom from bumping into me. Tom's arm brushed Theodore's shoulder, causing him to frown slightly. Tom turned, glancing down at me with his bright, smiling eyes. For some reason, his ears flushed, and he quickly hid the apple behind his back. Sorry about that. I looked at the apple, then back at him. You didn't bump into me. You bumped into him. I gestured to Theodore beside me. Tom's amber eyes turned to Theodore, his tone less flustered. Sorry. Didn't see you there. Theodore lowered his arm, muttering to me. I'll go pack up. Wait for me by your classroom. Okay. By the time I turned back, Tom had already wrapped his arm around his friend's neck, playfully scolding him as they headed back to class. You ungrateful brat. I couldn't help but laugh. Chapter 7. As expected, the apple was gone from my desk. In its place was a piece of scratch paper with just 2 words, thank you. The handwriting was bold and fluid, true to the person. After packing my bag, I waited for Theodore to show up. But he didn't. Eventually, I went to his classroom, only to find it dark and locked. I stood outside the empty class 2, dialing his number. A faint light glowed from the window of his desk cubby. The call ended, and the light went out. Theodore had broken his promise. I felt a hollow ache, as if something had been cut away. Just moments ago, I'd foolishly been looking forward to talking things through with him. The next day during break exercises, I had to inspect class 2 as the week's monitor. I walked past Theodore without looking at him. He suddenly spoke. Last night, in the line next to us, Susanna had swapped places with someone, ignoring me as she slipped a lollipop into Theodore's pocket. She tilted her head with a playful smile. This is for you as a thank you for walking me home last night. Oh, so that's why he didn't show up. Theodore pursed his lips, but didn't refuse, and turned to look at me. I avoided his gaze, docking class 2's points on my clipboard. Changing places and chatting during exercises costs you 5 points. Then, I walked toward class 1. Behind me, I heard Susanna's angry voice. Isn't the monitor your friend? And she's still deducting our class's points. At the end of class 1's line, Tom straightened up, instantly standing at attention and doing the exercises perfectly. He even kicked the guy in front of him, urging, "Take this seriously." The guy turned, looking annoyed before recognizing me and giving Tom a mischievous grin. Tom, look at you, taking this so seriously. Tom nudged him again. One more word, and she'll deduct points. I chuckled softly. As I passed him at the end, I murmured, relax. No points deducted. Chapter 8. The monthly exam results came out quickly. The test had just ended yesterday, and the scores were already available today. The homeroom teacher asked me to pick up the language papers. Before I entered the office, I overheard a teacher reprimanding, Tom, what did you even write for your essay? I'd need a GPS to find your main idea. You aced math and physics, but if you keep failing language, what's your plan for college? Stop looking away. I'm talking to you. I knocked. Excuse me, I'm here to pick up the papers. Oh, come in. I walked past Tom to the homeroom teacher's desk. The language teacher tried to rein in her tone. Look, Zoe missed the language exam because she was sick. or I'd let you see what a real essay looks like. Caught in the spotlight, I gave a polite smile. Nodding at the teacher, I turned and met Tom's gaze. He seemed a bit dazed, but quickly masked it with a shrug. Well, next time, I'll look forward to seeing it. Take your paper and go study more essay samples. The teacher scolded, practically pushing him out. Tom trailed me back to the classroom. Our shadows, one long and one short, overlapped and parted on the ground. At the door, he unexpectedly called out, "Zoe." I looked back, surprised. He stood backlit, his face hidden in shadow. Tom pulled his hand from his pocket, tossing something lightly into my arms with the exam papers. 2 packets of yogurt chips. For not docking me points during exercises. Consider it a thank you. I didn't refuse. All right, I'll gladly accept. Later. Then, as Tom left, I turned to find Theodore standing there. His gaze moved from Tom to me. About last night, sorry. Let's talk after school today. Expressionless. I walked into the classroom. No need. Even if Susanna had an urgent reason to need his help, he could have borrowed her phone to let me know. But I'd waited for nothing. It left me with 2 possibilities. Either he didn't want to, or he didn't remember my number. Whichever it was, I no longer wanted to hold out hope. Chapter 9. This time, Theodore's monthly exam results took a surprising dip. He fell to 5th in the grade. He'd never dropped out of the top 3 before. Soon, I found out why. Just as the bell rang, I was coming out of the school store and took a shortcut through the small grove. In the distance, I saw Susanna pulling Theodore into a corner, hands behind her back as she leaned toward him. If I wasn't mistaken, Class 2 was supposed to have gym now. "Theodore, do you like that Zoe from Class 3? She asked. "No," he replied immediately, "but I heard people say you two are neighbors." Theodore cut her off. His tone clipped. "She's just my neighbor." Susanna smiled, standing on her toes to brush her lips against his in a light kiss. "Theodore, I like you." He hesitated for a few seconds, then abruptly pulled her close, returning the kiss with force. Young and awkward. A stumbling, clumsy kiss. I stood there watching for a moment. I thought I'd feel sad, but, oddly enough, all I could think about was how I was going to be late to class. I turned and walked away. Before I'd gone far, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to see Tom, chewing on a bread roll. His cheeks puffed out. He kept running toward me, his black hair bouncing as he moved. He passed me, casually reminding me, "Hey, you're late too. You should run." His voice was muffled, and he looked like a little chipmunk with his stuffed cheeks. As we reached the stairs, he skidded to a sudden stop, and I ran into his back. Tom started coughing, his face turning red. He pointed at the water bottle in my hand. I said, "I've already drunk from it." Cough, cough. Cough. "Don't mind," he stammered, still coughing. Seeing how uncomfortable he was, I handed him the bottle. He finished off the remaining half. A kindness as small as a drop of water will be repaid with a gushing spring. His face was still flushed from coughing. Glad to hear it. Tom's repayment came quickly. After school, we were rearranging seats, and I ended up by the window. As soon as I sat down, I heard a knock on the window. Tom was leaning on the sill, his dimples showing as he grinned. He waved a bottle of water and a cup of yogurt at me. "My savior, here I am to repay your kindness." Chapter 10. It felt as if something had been planned. After that, I started running into Tom everywhere. And so, inexplicably, I grew closer to him. I'd ask him for help with science problems, and he'd ask me how to write better essays. Tom was smart, the kind of naturally talented person that others envied. While I'd spend an evening working on a problem, he'd figure it out in just a few minutes. No wonder all the science teachers adored him. My desk mate asked me why I'd suddenly gotten so close to him. I told her I'd saved his life. She gave me a look that said, "Yeah, right." No one mentioned my relationship with Theodore anymore, as everyone could tell something was going on between him and Susanna. Though I still saw Theodore around, we hadn't spoken in a while. Since the day I threw away that milk, he hadn't bought me another. Now, it was Susanna who strutted past our classroom daily, milk in hand, My deskmate would scoff every time. If she keeps flaunting like this, I'll be tempted to report their little romance. Seeing my indifference, she asked why I wasn't angry. I replied, honestly, at first I felt a bit sad, but that was disappointment in Theodore, not in Susanna, and that disappointment is partly my fault. We're not a couple, right? I have no right to control him. Even if we were together, I wouldn't be able to stop others from pursuing him. I used to like Theodore, but I've moved on. I'm 17, with a whole future ahead of me. I'm optimistic, hardworking, and a little pretty. Why would I waste myself over someone who's so cold? Not to brag, but once I'm done with my studies, I'll have no shortage of admirers. My deskmate asked weakly, and when will you finish? Learning never ends. Chapter 11. Finals arrived quickly. Since then, Theodore's scores had stopped dropping but still hovered around 5th place. His usual place as top in science had become mine. The day the results were posted, I went to the homeroom teacher's office to collect the report. I overheard the Class 2 homeroom teacher saying, "Oh, Theodore just needs a little more effort, and he'll get his top spot back." I checked his papers. He lost points due to careless mistakes. Boys aren't as meticulous as girls, but they're still smarter. My teacher just smiled without commenting. Seeing me, the Class 2 teacher quickly changed the subject. My homeroom teacher asked about my plans for the winter break. I was going to say none but then changed my mind. A few classmates and I are planning a study group to focus on science. We've got a student who's really good in that area to help us out. The Class 2 teacher jumped in. "Aw, so Theodore told me he'd be tutoring classmates over the break. So he'll be helping your class?" No, I said. "The guy I mentioned is Tom from Class 1. My teacher stifled a laugh. "Tom agreed to this?" "Yep. In exchange, I'm helping him with humanities." Just then, the Class 1 teacher burst in, overhearing our conversation. "Oh, talking about our Tom? What did he do now?" Tom trailed in behind him. My teacher explained our study arrangement with a smile. He looked amused. "So Zoe is the genius Tom was talking about. I thought his scores had improved because of my scolding." Patting me on the shoulder, he added, "Zoe, make sure you drill this kid hard over the break." He turned to Tom. "And you, Tom, show your classmates that impressive brain of yours." The Class 2 teacher jumped back in. "It's always boys who are the smartest. Like Tom and Theodore. They ace science effortlessly." Tom leaned forward, smirking. "Teacher, you're complimenting me? Thanks, but I think Zoe's smarter than I am. She was the only one in the whole school who aced the physics exam this time. I just came to see her paper." His dimples showed, but his tone held a playful edge. The Class 2 teacher, caught off guard, muttered a quick reply before getting distracted by a student coming in. Tom flashed me a victory sign. Chapter 12. Winter break. Just as I was about to head to the library, I ran into a group by the door across from mine. Susanna and some friends were ringing the bell. After a few seconds, Theodore opened the door. I glanced at him briefly before looking away. Susanna laughed. "I remember you said Zoe was your neighbor, but I didn't realize you two lived so close." Theodore murmured an acknowledgement, inviting them in. As I was putting on my shoes, Theodore's voice came from behind. "Zoe, you're avoiding me." It was a statement, not a question. I felt a chuckle rising. "You're overthinking it. Then why haven't you come over to my house when my mom invites you?" "Too much homework. No time." "Zoe, already inside," Susanna called out. "Theodore, we're all waiting. Aren't you coming?" She shot me a look, half amused, half pitying. Theodore turned back to me. "Zoe, I hope we can still be friends." He didn't wait for a reply and closed the door. I almost laughed out loud. Standing there, I sent him a text. "I don't want to be friends with rude people." Then, I deleted his number along with the message. Predictably, Theodore didn't respond. If he hadn't said that, maybe we'd have stayed quietly in each other's contacts. But he defined us as friends. The title felt ironic. Once, there was no talk of friends or neighbors between us. Faced with everyone's teasing, he never corrected them. I'd liked Theodore, and I'd thought he liked me too. Now I realized I was wrong. He'd only ever seen me as a convenient excuse to reject others, and I'd quietly accepted his cold treatment, obediently staying in his life. Put bluntly, I was just his simp. For years, my life had revolved around my studies or Theodore. Others knew me as Theodore's little childhood friend, Zoe. But now? I'm Zoe, top of the class at S High School, no longer anyone's shadow. Without Theodore, my future suddenly feels wide open. Without him as my focus, I have time to explore myself and see the beauty around me. Knock knock. At the library, across the table, Tom waved his phone, motioning me to check mine. Zoe, it's snowing outside. The light was dim, and snowflakes were gently falling, but I saw a bright light. The boy in front of me smiled with his dimples, sending another message. It's the first snow today. Make a wish. I looked up, meeting his shining amber eyes. Then let's both wish for a bright future. Chapter 13. Theodore and I silently drifted apart. Without heated arguments or dramatic scenes, we became just neighbors. As he once wished, when we happened to cross paths, we'd give a polite nod or smile. The relationship between Theodore and Susanna eventually got out, and the teachers spoke with his parents. When I ran into his parents, they asked cautiously, Zoe, why haven't you come to see Theodore lately? Did you two have a fight? Since childhood, they'd always joked about me being their future daughter-in-law. Theodore had never been close to any other girls besides me, so the news of him dating someone else left them shocked and confused. But I could tell they hadn't scolded him for it. In fact, when I shook my head and told them we hadn't argued, a slight, barely noticeable sense of relief appeared on their faces. Zoe, boys his age like to fool around. Just wait. We'll talk to him, they assured me. No need, came a loud, angry voice from behind. Zoe! I turned. Theodore looked furious, something I'd never seen from him before. Come with me, I need to talk to you. He grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the elevator. Stumbling, I steadied myself by grabbing onto him, and he quickly pulled his arm back. Behind us, his parents chuckled. Theodore, talk it out with Zoe. Little disagreements don't last forever. We walked through crowds until we reached a secluded corner of the park, where Theodore finally stopped. Standing on his shadow, I waited, curious about what he had to say. Zoe, did you tell on me and Susanna? His tone was cold. I paused, caught slightly off guard. So that's what he wanted to ask. No, I replied. He frowned, clearly doubting me. I shrugged and found a nearby bench to sit down. I saw you with her in the grove by the school, he trailed off, watching me carefully. I laughed. So he had seen me. Saying just neighbors had been his way of making me back off. Checking my phone, I said, Theodore, do you still think I like you? Yes, I used to. But not anymore. Who you date has nothing to do with me. I'd rather spend my time studying than bothering with your affairs. I looked up, meeting his gaze from below. Once, his gaze would have had me second-guessing myself, anxiously looking for any hint of approval. Was it contempt or affection? But now, I only found him ridiculous, maybe even a little tiresome. A message from Tom popped up on my screen. Zoe, you're not still studying, are you? Don't forget we're all watching the fireworks tonight. Don't bail on us. I quickly typed back. If anyone bails, they're a turtle. He sent a voice message. I'm almost at your building. Be downstairs in 10. In the background, I heard cars honking, voices, and the sound of him running, mixed with the rush of wind and his steady breathing. I could picture him, full of life, running toward me. I smiled. Zoe. Theodore took a step closer, his shadow blocking out the light from the street lamp. His expression had softened, with an uncertain hesitation I hadn't seen before. I stood up. Whether you believe me or not, I didn't do anything. I have plans tonight. I'll be going. I had barely taken 2 steps. Zoe. This time, his voice was soft, so quiet it was swallowed by the wind. I didn't stop. Happy New Year. I waved, striding toward the gate. Chapter 14. Tom and a group of friends were waiting, each on their electric bikes. Everyone was from our self-organized study group. and even my desk mate Lily was there. Oh wow. Look at you two. Matching outfits tonight? Lily teased, grinning. Go sit behind Tom. I glanced at Tom. Both of us were wearing yellow down jackets, the same color but different styles. Propping his foot on the ground, he leaned over the handlebars, smiling. Not a hint of embarrassment from Lily's teasing. He held out a helmet. Since Lily insists, Zoe, let's fulfill her couple goals dream. I took the helmet and, to everyone's surprise, climbed onto Lily's bike instead. With a grin, I pulled the helmet over my head and raised my eyebrows at Tom. No way am I riding with you, you speed too much. If the cops stop us, I wouldn't even have time to jump off. The warm yellow glow of the streetlights shone over him. He leaned against his bike, his amber eyes thoughtful, like a sudden breeze, silent, yet gentle. The corner of his lips lifted slightly, revealing a single dimple. I'd go slow if you were riding with me. At some point, Tom was no longer the boy who blushed easily. I felt like he'd been secretly practicing. Every move he made stirred something in the air, making everything feel light and alive. Avoiding his gaze, I patted Lily's shoulder and signaled, "Let's go!" We arrived at the lake to find the place packed with people. After searching around, we finally found a spot with a bit of breathing room. The timing was perfect. We just settled in when the crowd started counting down. 5, 4. We joined in, shouting together. 3, 2, 1. A burst of fireworks exploded over the lake, tearing through the night sky. A warm breath brushed against my ear. Zoe, Happy New Year. May all your wishes come true. Tom was standing beside me, one arm loosely resting behind me to keep the crowd from pushing us. He looked down, smiling, his eyes reflecting the fireworks, bright and vivid. From that moment on, one brilliant firework after another lit up the sky. Everyone was shouting their New Year's wishes. Adult life. Here I come. Lily's ready. Good luck with exams. Here's to getting into our dream schools. I cupped my hands around my mouth and shouted, South University. Here I come. Boom, boom, boom. The fireworks roared. Thump, thump, thump. My heart quickened. Despite the winter chill, a warmth spread in the crowd's joyful atmosphere. I glanced sideways to find Tom watching me. Tom, Happy New Year. Wishing you all the best. I heard myself say. Chapter 15. The winter study sessions paid off. For the opening exams, I took first place again. Everyone in our study group showed improvement, especially Tom, who climbed into the top 10. The homeroom teacher from class 1 passed by, then backtracked a few steps, saying, Zoe, looks like your teaching methods really worked on Tom. My desk mate nudged me, whispering, it's not the methods that work, it's the person. I nudged her back. After the teacher left, she started to tease. So, what did you and Tom whisper about during New Year's? Did he confess? She mouthed the words confess silently. No, you're reading too much into it. Really? She squinted at me, and when she found no hint of embarrassment, she gave up asking. Tom likes me. I'm not oblivious. And yes, I do feel a little something for him. Maybe it's the lingering beauty of that night's fireworks. I can't control other people's feelings, but I can keep my own in check. The college entrance exam is my top priority now. There's no time for anything else. At lunch, on our way to the cafeteria, we passed the honor roll. Lily craned her neck to look. Hey, Theodore is back up. He got second place this time, right next to you. Just as she said it, the person ahead of us stopped. Theodore turned around. Lily fell silent. He looked thinner, like the slightest breeze could knock him over, even with his down jacket. Congratulations. Theodore stared at me, his voice flat. Thanks. The early spring chill blew between us, cutting through the air. We were like two ships setting sail in opposite directions, heading toward different ports. Someone came running from behind, pulling my hood up. For a moment, the wind died. Zoe, aren't you guys going to the cafeteria? Your favorite chicken wings are gonna be gone. Tom and a few of his friends jogged past, glancing back with a bright smile. I perked up and grabbed Lily's hand, rushing after them. Halfway down the hallway, I remembered I hadn't said goodbye to Theodore. Turning briefly, I saw him tall and thin among the crowd, a striking figure, but a second later, Susanna ran up to him, walking in step by his side. Chapter 16. Spring passed, and summer arrived. After months of intense preparation, the college entrance exams finally came on a sweltering, overcast day. After the last exam, rain finally poured down, relieving the tension that had been building up for days. Many students ran into the rain, shouting and laughing, releasing the frustrations of the past 3 years. I stood under the eaves, raising my hand to let the raindrops slip through my fingers. Someone tapped my shoulder. "What are you planning for the summer?" Tom leaned casually against the wall, smiling with a tilt of his head. Just as I was about to answer, Theodore approached from behind him. Tom noticed, glancing briefly at Theodore before turning back to me with an unchanging smile. "I'm learning to drive. What about you?" Tom shrugged slightly. "I've been drafted into being my family's luggage handler for their overseas trip." "You sound so miserable. How about I take your place?" "Sure, you can." Theodore, who had started walking away, suddenly turned back and inserted himself between us. In an unexpectedly gentle tone, he asked, "Zoe, when are you leaving?" "Huh?" Tom tilted his head slightly, peeking over Theodore's shoulder with a mock pout. "Zoe, I forgot my umbrella. Can you walk me home?" Almost at the same time, Theodore said, "My mom said to invite you to dinner tonight. We can head home together." So that was it. His sudden politeness was courtesy of his mom's orders. No need to walk home together. Just tell her I'll be there tonight. I moved around him and looked Tom in the eye. "Let's go, Lord Tom. I'll walk you home." "All right." The umbrella was small, and neither of us stood too close, so our shoulders were half soaked. After a while, Tom, taller than me, took the umbrella from my hand. He tilted it to cover my other shoulder. Without a word, I moved a little closer until our shoulders brushed. "Tom, Zoe," we spoke in unison, then laughed together. "You go first," he said, grinning. My hand brushed against his pants seam. "Tom, enjoy your vacation and remember your sunscreen." He blinked, then burst into a smile, his dimples deepening. I suddenly realized how handsome he was. He said, "Same to you. Enjoy learning to drive. And when you're ready, take me out for a spin. I don't have the money to buy a car, though. No worries, I'll borrow my dad's for you." I nudged him playfully. In the distance, someone shouted his name. Tom lifted the umbrella, shielding me from the misty rain, and held his hand up to block it. "Speak of the devil, my dad's here. Come on, I'll drop you off first so you can get a feel for my dad's car." I pointed to the other side, where my parents were eagerly waiting. "Maybe next time. My folks are here, too." He handed the umbrella back to me, his hand brushing my fingers. It was cool, yet sparked a silent fire. With a quick wave, Tom dashed off into the rain. The wind and rain rushed in from the right side. The boy in the rain turned back, waving as he ran. "Zoe, keep in touch." "All right, let's keep in touch." Chapter 17. I didn't skip the dinner at Theodore's that evening. It was our first dinner together since we became just neighbors. Theodore's parents were warm and welcoming, asking about my exams and my dream school. I smiled and answered each question. After visiting the bathroom, I walked past Theodore's room and saw him with his back to the door. On the phone. "Not tonight. Maybe tomorrow. My family's hosting guests." Pause. "Yes, she's here too." The person on the other end said something, and Theodore clicked his tongue. It was subtle, but I knew that sound. It meant he was irritated. Without stopping, I returned to the living room. This summer was exhausting. I learned to drive during the day and took swimming and Tai Chi classes in the evening. My parents wanted me to have a few self-defense skills before heading out of town for college. Meanwhile, Lily and the others were flaunting their summer adventures in our group chat, whether it was traveling or food posts. When the scores were released, my parents were more nervous than I was. Hearing my results, they finally breathed a sigh of relief. South University was guaranteed. Then came phone calls from the homeroom teacher, recruitment calls from various schools, and endless activity for my parents. Tom sent me a picture of himself in sunglasses and swim trunks, looking tanned from the sun. I replied, "What did you send? I can't see anything." He didn't get it at first and sent it again. Then, a beat later, he realized, "Oh, Zoe, now you're making jokes at my expense?" I stopped teasing him. "I heard from the teacher you scored second in the grade. How could anyone get first place with you around? Have you decided which school to apply to? It's a secret." Sure, he didn't have to say it. I already knew. Just as I was about to go offline, Tom sent another voice message. "Zoe, we're about to turn 18. His voice was fresh and bright, brimming with youth and vitality. "Here's to you and to me, may we continue to shine in the future." Chapter 18. Theodore and I both ended up at South University, but we chose different majors. I went for bioengineering, and he went into applied chemistry. Both our families came with us to help us settle in. Before they left, our parents reminded us to look out for each other at school. As soon as they were out of sight, I was ready to part ways with Theodore. "Zoe," he called out to me. Theodore was tall and striking, attracting attention even in a crowd. I asked if he needed anything else. "Let's grab dinner tonight. Susanna and some other alumni from S High will be there." After a moment's thought, I agreed. "Sure, send me the details." That evening, I arrived a bit late to the gathering. As soon as I entered, everyone cheered. "The top student from S High is finally here. Now we can drink. A toast for being late." Before I could speak, someone grabbed my arm from behind, smiling playfully. Sorry. Blame me for Zoe being late," Tom announced. "If there's a penalty for being late, I'll take it for her." Without waiting, he chugged his drink and, with a grin, sat down like nothing happened. Once seated, he tugged at my sleeve. "Hurry, pour me some coconut juice. I'm dying over here." I smirked. Tom had made it to South University too. I'd known all along, his close friend had spilled his dream school ages ago. He was in applied physics. Across the table sat Theodore and Susanna. Someone teased them, and Susanna laughed, leaning against him. I hadn't planned to apply to South University, but since Theodore did, I decided to come along. Theodore didn't look at her. His gaze was fixed on me. Ignoring him, I turned back to chat with the others. As the evening went on and the drinks flowed, the mood grew more lively, and someone brought up an old rumor. "Hey, Theodore, I always thought you and Zoe were a thing. You two were inseparable, even on the honor roll." The room fell silent. Without thinking, I glanced at Tom. He gave me a reassuring smile, refilling my coconut juice. Susanna's voice broke the silence, cold and sharp. "If you don't know what you're talking about, keep quiet." Realizing his mistake, the guy quickly apologized and downed 2 more drinks before slumping in his chair. Theodore said, "It's fine, Susanna. He's just drunk, talking nonsense." His casual dismissal seemed to set Susanna off. She slammed her chopsticks down. "This isn't about drunken rambling." Then, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Everyone exchanged awkward glances. Someone urged Theodore to go after her. It wasn't really my business, though my name had been brought up. Before leaving, Theodore paused between Tom and me, looking hesitant, as if choosing his words carefully. "Zoe," he finally said, "could you come out with me and explain things to Susanna? She seems to misunderstand our relationship." The way he said it made it sound like I had intentionally caused a rift between them. I couldn't help but smile. Then I felt a weight on my shoulder. Tom had leaned his head on me, looking dazed. "Zoe, my head hurts. Feels so heavy. I can't lift it." Holding back laughter, I soothed him. "Where does it hurt? Let me rub it for you." "Here, right here." He guided my hand to his temple, sighing contentedly, like a lazy cat. Seeing that we were just doing this to annoy him, Theodore left in silence. As soon as he was gone, Tom snapped out of his drunken state, straightening the crease in my sleeve. Then, noticing what he was doing, he quickly withdrew his hand, grabbing his cup to cover his embarrassment. "You're drinking from my cup," I said, smirking. He coughed, startled, his face turning red. One of our friends tried to break the tension, making a joke about us. I knew something was up with you two. Come on, spill, are you together or what? While helping Tom, who was still coughing, I replied, we're not together. Then, Tom finally caught his breath and answered, well, Zoe's got her mind fully focused on studying. I don't think there's any room for me. He avoided my gaze as he said it. What? Did he blush just from drinking out of my cup? I rolled my eyes. Chapter 19. Neither Theodore nor Susanna returned for the second half of the gathering. Everyone quietly avoided bringing them up. Later that night, Lily called me with some gossip. Apparently, Susanna and Theodore had fought and broken up. Susanna had been posting cryptic, passive-aggressive messages in her feed. I asked Lily how she ended up with Susanna's WeChat. She explained that when Susanna first transferred to S-High, many students asked for her contact info, and she did too. It was during military training. The autumn sun was brutal, and one of my roommates fainted from heat stroke, causing a stir in the crowd. Just as we managed to get her on a classmate's back, I suddenly felt myself lifted off the ground. Tom, sweating profusely and missing his hat, carried me, shouting for people to make way. I gave him a smack. He groaned, finally looking down at me. Are you crazy, Tom? My roommate's the one who passed out. What? He looked shocked. I heard someone say a girl from class 1 fainted. I thought it was you. He set me down, rubbing his chest. You sure didn't waste your time practicing those punches over the break. Of course, I can KO a mini Tom with one punch now. Tom spread his arms and puffed out his chest. Go on, punch me again. If I yelp, I'll be a puppy. I swung my fist at him. He laughed. You yelped. Instead of arguing, he laughed even louder. Woof. From around the corner, a figure slipped away. I recognized the fleeting side profile. It was Theodore. Chapter 20. Susanna texted me. It was the day after Lily told me she and Theodore had gotten back together. We need to talk. I didn't reply at first, thinking it was a mistake. Then she sent a friend request on WeChat. With a note, it's Susanna. There was nothing to talk about with her, but I didn't want to waste any more time getting pulled into their relationship drama. I accepted her request and replied, I never dated Theodore. And I don't plan to. Whatever's going on between you two, leave me out of it. Susanna took a long time to respond, but when she finally did, she simply wrote, fine. See? Such a simple thing. 2 sentences settled it. No need for drama or confrontation. College life was wonderful, giving me time for things beyond studying. I explored this unfamiliar city with my roommates, experimented with makeup, and discovered all sorts of new experiences. My first successful attempt at makeup was for our department's student council gathering. That evening, I had a few symbolic sips of alcohol and went to the restroom midway through. When I came out, a guy called out to me. It took me a moment to recognize him. He was a senior from the dinner table, a year ahead of me. Zoe, can I add you on WeChat? He could have added me through the group chat, but he chose to ask face-to-face instead. For a moment, he reminded me of Theodore. Then I blinked, and there was Theodore, right behind him. Zoe, what are you doing here? I was startled, then pointed to the restroom sign. What do you think? Is that so? Theodore's lips curled into a sneer, glancing at the senior in a way that was hard to misinterpret. Ignoring him, I added the senior on WeChat and walked back to the table. The senior seemed to sense something. Was that a former classmate? His intentions were clear, but I busied myself with my phone to avoid his gaze. Tom had sent me a picture of his cafeteria meal. Lunchtime. Let's eat, while others feast. I'm stuck with plain steamed buns. Sob. No worries, buns with chili can taste amazing too. The alcohol started to kick in, and I slumped in my chair, typing back. Tom, are you free? His reply was instant. How may I serve? Ma'am? Come pick me up. On my way. When the gathering ended, I politely declined the senior's offer to walk me back. Suddenly, I felt a painful grip on my arm and stumbled into an embrace. I looked up to see Theodore, his face stern. Zoe, didn't your parents tell you not to drink when you're out? His unexpected concern was baffling. I tried to shake him off, but he tightened his grip. His gaze lingered on me, and a brief look of surprise flashed across his eyes, maybe at my makeup, before his frown deepened. You're wearing makeup now? None of your business. What's going on here? A warm hand settled on my waist, gently pulling me away. Tom, looking down at me, smiled with bright, shining eyes. Did you wait long? I shook my head. Only then did he look at Theodore. Oh, it's you. I thought it was some drunk pestering our lovely Zoe. Theodore's face turned stony, his gaze fixed on Tom's hand around me. All good? Well, we'll be going now, Tom said cheerfully. As we walked away, Tom raised his voice, clearly not caring if Theodore overheard. Who does he think he is? Bossing you around? Since when is it his business if you wear makeup or have a drink? Just a neighbor. Nosier than I am. He raised his hand to hail a cab. Chapter 21. Since Susanna added me on WeChat. This wasn't the first time Theodore had poked his nose into my life. From Susanna's feed, it was clear that she and Theodore were in an on-again, off-again cycle. He'd even texted me late at night a few times. It was as if he'd forgotten what he'd said before, casually asking if I was free. I didn't reply, and he didn't seem bothered. Susanna must have sensed something because she showed up at my school one day. My roommates and I were just heading back to the dorm after a meal when I saw her leaning casually against a tree. She stood out, with her stunning looks and figure. I spotted her immediately. She straightened, expressionless. Zoe, we need to talk about Theodore. The stares of people around us felt like slaps across my face. She looked like a queen addressing a subordinate, taking the moral high ground. I hated misunderstandings. In front of her, I pulled Theodore from my blocked contacts and called him, asking him to come over so we could clear things up once and for all. As soon as they saw each other, they started arguing loudly, listening to their accusations. I realized I'd been a catalyst all along. The scene reminded me of that day in the Grove at S High. The thrill and sweetness I once felt were miles away from the bitterness in front of me now. Unable to bear it any longer, I interrupted Susanna's tirade. Susanna, did you delete the New Year's message I sent him back in senior year? She stopped mid-sentence, her tear-streaked face suddenly anxious. She was beautiful, even in disarray, but her eyes betrayed her guilt. Theodore looked at me in confusion. And the milk? Did you switch out the bottle Theodore left for me that day? You know which day I mean. Theodore frowned, puzzled. What message? Susanna stammered defensively. Why are you accusing me? Where's your proof? No, I don't have proof. I laughed inside. Yes, I used to like Theodore, but I'm not some masochist. I don't have to hang my whole life on him. Do me a favor and leave me out of your love drama. Just then, an image flashed in my mind. The image of a boy whose smile outshone the brightest summer day. And for the record, I already like someone else. This kind of nonsense could hurt his feelings. I don't want him to be hurt. Chapter 22. After getting out of the cab, Tom and I walked back to the dorm together. The trees swayed gently, crickets chirping in the night. Our shadows stretched long under the streetlights, overlapping and pulling apart. I stepped sideways, and our shadows merged. Was the food good? He asked suddenly. I turned to him, smiling. Not as good as the places he'd taken me to. Was the alcohol good? I stayed silent, just smiling at him. Tom tilted his head, leaning closer. His breath brushed my cheek. Did you really drink too much? What's your limit? If it's that low, then I'll take the top spot in drinking. Tom, let's date. Huh? Wait, what? I stood on my toes, placing a light kiss on his lips. Tom, you're adorable. He stared at me in shock. Frozen. Are you just drunk talking? He coughed, fumbling for his phone. Say that again so I can record it, in case you deny it tomorrow. Guess I just took first place in confessions. He blinked, pocketing his phone with a serious expression. Ruffling my hair, he said, dating is a big deal. It can't be rushed. You go sleep, and tomorrow, I'll start chasing you. Are you sure you don't want to skip the chasing? He thought for a moment, then nodded solemnly. I'm sure. Maybe it was the light buzz from the drinks, or maybe it was finally saying the words to Tom that made me sleep so peacefully that night. The next morning, I found out he hadn't slept at all. The moment I texted good morning, he sent me a lengthy message in response, a whopping 2,359 words. The excitement, worry, and nerves of a sleepless night were all in there. At the end, he added, "You're not going to bail on me now that you've sobered up, are you?" Bail on what? Last night was my. Even through the screen, I could feel his embarrassment. Ugh. Something warm and tender stirred within me. Tom, today is the first day of you chasing me. Tom, I'm outside your dorm, waiting for the grand debut of Miss Zoe. Tom's perspective, extra chapter. Chapter 1. When Zoe said, "Let's date," Tom felt like he was losing his mind. He stared at her, heartbeat pounding as if it might jump out of his chest, trying to keep his composure as he reached for his phone, but his hand betrayed him, trembling so much he couldn't even find the recording button. Instead, he accidentally opened their chat window. He had no idea what he said. His brain was practically exploding with fireworks. He felt dazed until Zoe leaned up and kissed him. In that moment, his hearing vanished, and the world seemed to pause. The faint, fresh scent of her perfume, mixed with a hint of alcohol, wrapped around him in a way that was both bold and playful. Her lips were soft, her big, bright eyes blinked, and her long lashes brushed against his eyelids. It felt like they brushed across his heart, tickling and stirring. Zoe kissed him. She kissed him? Zoe kissed him. Tom felt like he was floating, ready to soar at any second. That night, he messaged Leonardo, his friend who had gone to another city for college. "She called me cute today." Leonardo was the only person who knew about Tom's crush on Zoe. Leonardo, want to play a game? Tom, she had a little to drink today. Leonardo, oh, come online. Tom, she said. Tom, let's date. Leonardo, get on. Wait, what? Tom, she kissed me. Sweet and soft. I'm melting. Leonardo, go away. Hopeless romantic. I'm going to kill all of you. Chapter 2. The first time he'd heard of Zoe was back in middle school. She was always the runner-up. Whenever anyone mentioned her, they'd always bring up another name first, Theodore. So, naturally, Tom assumed the two were dating. When he got into high school, he started hearing about the two of them again and joked with Leonardo. Look at that power couple, taking the top 2 spots again. Leonardo, just admit you're jealous. Jealous? I'd rather put that energy into playing a few more games. At first, Tom only knew Zoe from the honor roll, in her blue and white school uniform, with wispy bangs and a ponytail. She had a small, oval face, and big, round eyes. Tom's first thought was, so that's Zoe, she's adorable. Then he glanced at the stony-faced Theodore next to her. What did he do to deserve her? The first time Tom actually met Zoe in person was after the National Day break in freshman year. On the bus back to school, he and Leonardo were cramming for their English homework, talking through the problems with their mouths full of bread. The bus braked suddenly, and a girl wearing the high school uniform next to him lurched forward. Tom instinctively grabbed her backpack. She turned around, clutching her chest, and thanked him. Her voice was calm, nothing like the sweetness her appearance suggested. He realized immediately that it was Zoe. She glanced at the English worksheet in his hand. For some reason, Tom reflexively hid it behind him, face flushing as he stood up to offer her his seat. Here, you sit. Zoe didn't refuse, saying something to Theodore, who was also standing, before coming over to sit down. Holding the handle, Tom nudged Leonardo to stop fussing over the homework. I think your class's English homework is the same as ours. Want to compare answers? Zoe tapped his arm with her stack of worksheets. She put it politely, but it was really an offer to let him copy. Leonardo gratefully accepted. You're a lifesaver. We'll return it as soon as we get off the bus. That homework was the most nerve-wracking thing Tom had ever copied. From that moment on, he started seeing Zoe everywhere. She was on the honor roll. She was giving speeches under the flag as an outstanding student representative. She was in the cafeteria, eating lunch. She was in PE class. More often than not, his eyes were like a compass, guiding him straight to her. Every time he passed by her, the drumbeat in his chest reminded him clearly he had a crush on Zoe. As for when he'd started liking her, Even Tom couldn't pinpoint it. Maybe it was the first time he saw her on the honor roll, or on that bus, or during each of their accidental encounters after that. His affection grew carefully, bit by bit. She didn't remember him, though. One day in sophomore year, they were both chosen to give speeches as student representatives. In the broadcast room, Tom kept smoothing out the creases on his speech notes. Zoe whispered, "Could you hand me some water? I'm a little nervous and want a sip." She met his gaze with a calm look tinged with apology. Zoe was trying to comfort him. Afterward, Tom walked half a step behind her. "Thank you." Zoe looked surprised. "Huh? I should be thanking you." Her lips curved in a gentle smile, her gaze fixed on him with sincerity and warmth. Who wouldn't fall for a girl like that? He couldn't hold out. Theodore, that guy, really didn't know what he had. Chapter 3. A new girl transferred to science class 2, and everyone said she was gorgeous. Tom, being stubborn, disagreed. They challenged him to name someone prettier than Susanna at S High. He casually listed a few names, ending with Zoe. And Zoe, too. "I think she's even prettier," he said. Leonardo learned about Tom's secret crush during the New Year's Eve party in their senior year. Tom had stumbled across a student roster in the office and learned that Zoe's birthday was December 24th. That afternoon, he went out and bought a cake, decorated with a little blue mermaid. Leonardo pestered him about who it was for, but he evaded the question. Leonardo teased, "I get it. You've got a secret crush." "No way. It's for my mom. I'm taking it home tonight." Zoe and Theodore weren't dating. The moment Tom realized this, he felt a weight lift off his chest. But Zoe liked Theodore. That realization weighed him down again. At the New Year's Eve party, Zoe left early and went to the lake in front of the library. He figured she was probably waiting for Theodore. It was her birthday. After all, Tom squatted in the distance, cake in hand, keeping her company. Her shoulders shook slightly as if she were crying. After a long time, so long his legs went numb, he finally decided to approach her. The cake was successfully delivered. As a stranger, she was indeed crying, her voice thick with tears. Like a tiny, rain-soaked kitten, Tom resisted the urge to get closer, not wanting to scare her. He silently followed her home. When she looked back, he quickly ducked into a stairwell, bumping into Leonardo, who had snuck along behind him. Seeing Leonardo about to shout, Tom clamped a hand over his mouth and awkwardly tried to imitate a cat's meow. Leonardo, his face full of mischief, insisted on peeking at who Tom had escorted. Leonardo only confirmed Tom's crush on Zoe a few days later. He noticed Tom's good mood after their next exam, especially when Tom returned with an apple. Leonardo spotted a note stuck to the apple. "Tom, did that girl you like give this to you?" "No." Tom, smug, hid the note carefully. Then they ran into Zoe, and Tom's ears turned bright red. Leonardo only then realized, "Aha, so it's her. Wait, no, let me." Tom quickly grabbed him around the neck, covering his mouth as he dragged him back to the classroom. Tom's little secret had a rather noisy witness. With a heart full of admiration, he cautiously got closer to her. Every step he took was sweet. On the night Zoe kissed him, a memory flashed through his mind. On the bus, he'd watched as she listened to music, her head lowered in peace. Then she'd turned, meeting his gaze. The golden October sunlight bathed her face. In that glow, she'd smiled, lips curling slightly. At that moment, he'd heard his own heartbeat clearly. Thump, thump, strong and alive.